Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Full show tonight. My interview with Kenny Curtis and Jillian Hughes about their new book, Greeking Out, along with their wow, I just had a stroke. National Geographic Kids podcast. It's a concurrent with them. After that, entertainment lawyer Joshua Lastine. Plus, we've got Jim Ousley in studio. Talking about Butcher Queen. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And for those, what is it? I don't know what's going on tonight. I haven't been drinking, I swear. It's just I can't talk. Hi, welcome to the show. This is Geek to Me Radio, hosted by me, James Enstall, apparently having something going wrong with my brain. Tonight, we've got a full show. We've got an interview with the people who wrote this particular book, Greeking Out. I had the chance to sit down with them earlier this week and talk to them about this and their National Geographic Kids, pulled it off that time, podcast. It's a lot of fun. If you've got kids as an adult, I enjoyed reading the book and everything. It's really cool. So here is my interview with Kenny Curtis and Jillian Hughes.
Right now, we're joined by Rick and Marty Legina talking about their History Channel series, The Curse of Oak Island. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning.
I hit the wrong button. This is off to a fantastic start. Here we go. The actual interview, not that one, the one with Kenny Curtis and Jillian Hughes.
Right now, we're joined by Kenny Curtis and Jillian Hughes, authors of the book, Greeking Out, which is a companion piece to their podcast through Nat Geo. Thank you both for your time today.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, this is so much. I'm a huge fan. Like ever since junior high, I had an English teacher introduce us to Greek mythology, and I loved it. The Roman mythology, not so much. I'm still an Aphrodite guy and a Zeus guy, not so much Jupiter and all the other ones, but it's still fascinating nonetheless. What do you think it is that thousands and thousands of years later, people are still drawn to the world of Greek mythology?
Yeah. We were just saying earlier, like Greek mythology is really having a moment right now. It seems to be like really in the lexicon. And I think it's because these characters are just so universal. You know, we say they're the original Avengers. They're kind of like the archetype of all other heroes and villains that you see today. So even though kids might not be familiar with the Greek versions of these characters, they still recognize them and their personalities and their traits, and they see how they've been represented over the years in different pop culture. And the same thing with the themes. You know, these are universal themes and that are asking universal questions and trying to provide answers. And I think that just really, kids relate to that, resonate with that. And that's why we try to tell these stories to a new audience, new generation of kids, and try to explain why these stories are still relevant and, resonate with them today.
Plus, they have flying horses and monsters with lots of heads.
I mean, it's fun.
So,
Yeah, well, I mean, when you have giants with 100 eyes, how can kids not like that, right? I mean, that's
exactly, right? I mean, come on. Unless you're trying to put contacts in, you're good.
Right, exactly. That'd be a long time getting ready, I'm sure. The book is so fascinating. It's gorgeously drawn. I actually love the illustrations and everything. So you've been doing the podcast and then the book. What was the impetus to decide, hey, you know what? Let's do a companion book. What brought that on?
Well, it's kind of a full circle moment, because the podcast itself, Greeking Out, was a device that appeared in another National Geographic Kids book series called Zeus the Mighty. And this is by a book series by Crispin Boyer. It's a really adorable kids book series about animals in a pet shop in Olympia, Georgia, that think they are the Greek gods because they listen to this podcast called Greeking Out. We were working with the folks at National Geographic Kids. Becky Baines and Kate Hale were hosting. They were executives there. They were hosting the Weird But True radio show that I was working on, they said, hey, we should make this podcast and it'll promote the Zeus the Mighty book series. We made the podcast. Podcast took off, took on a life of its own. 11 seasons later, more accurately like 8 or 9 seasons later, we decided the podcast is so successful, we launch a book series. So we're now at the second book in that book series that was inspired by a podcast that was inspired by another book series.
So you both have a lot of, I guess I want to say, experience is a good word, with children's programming, things like that. Obviously, the book is a great thing to show kids. It's written in their language. I cackled out loud when I read Harpy Farts in one of the stories. But this is obviously something that adults find podcasts. Kids don't usually just click on a podcast. So when you look at your demographic, what is the breakdown? Have you seen, is it mostly adults who are then sharing with their kids? Is it a good mix of both? What's the breakdown demographic that you usually see for your podcast audience?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, having the National Geographic Kids brand is something that makes parents go, oh, these people know what they're doing. They're trusted. The content is vetted and everybody knows that about National Geographic Kids, which is great. So I think parents are listening. We know that I think our sweet spot is like first or second grade, like 8, 9, 10-year-olds. But honestly, we have younger kids that listen up and older kids that listen continuously. It really keeps going. We're not really a hey kids sort of content, right?
Yeah, I think it kind of grows with you, and we're both parents. We love that the parents like it, that they are putting something on in theory for their kids, but that they can enjoy it and want to listen to it, and it can be a fun experience for all the listeners.
And I know, speaking of families, there's a lot of, shall we say, family drama in Greek mythology between the gods and everything like that. Some families love each other, some families not so much. You get to work with your dad, Jillian. What's that like? How did the collaboration come about? And what have been some of the hurdles that you two have had to kind of get past to just push ahead?
Oh. I mean, it's been great. It really has been just a surreal experience that we get to do this and that people like hearing us talk about this stuff and read the books. I mean, it's crazy. It's just something that's always been a part of our relationship. Our family dynamic is telling stories and being silly. And, that's just sort of how we have communicated. I grew up listening to Kenny tell me bedtime stories at night, and I bugged him for years to write a book, and he never did. So I had to get involved and write the book with him. So here we are. But it's been great. It's been fun. We have a great relationship, a great working relationship, and we don't bug each other too much. So not too many hurdles.
We had one hurdle. We did an appearance on a podcast called Smash Boom Best, the kids podcast, where we got to argue which one was better, and she was Team Pegasus and I was Team Centaur.
Oh.
And she won. And I mean, I'm not going to say she cheated. I'm not going to say that.
Some people are just sore losers.
Look, I'm not. It's. I mean, there's an obvious bias. That's fine.
That's
whatever.
It happens. I mean, being a brony, I'm a huge fan of Twilight Sparkle, so I would be Team Pegasus. I'm not going to lie, but I mean, nothing.
Now I know where we are now. Now I know what I'm dealing with.
We've set the stage going forward. Now it might be a little more contentious going forward for the couple minutes we have left. I want to ask you both. We see in the book these gorgeous illustrations that I mentioned earlier. We're familiar with a lot of these characters. Some obviously children are being introduced to these characters for the first time. Some of them. When you picture this, I'm always the kind of guy when I see illustrations, especially as they are in the book, I think of what voice actor would play that role. Does that ever cross your mind? Like, oh, wouldn't it be great to get Rob Paulson to voice Sisyphus or something like that? Do you guys have you thought about voice casting some of the characters?
Sometimes my brain goes there. For some reason, I keep going back to Sean Connery as Zeus, and I don't know why. I think part of it is like when I'm trying to do the voices, but I just keep hearing Sean Connery as Zeus. I think that might be. Wasn't he in like Clash of the Titans or
Highlander? No, he was in Time Bandits. Yeah,
Time Bandits. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. Maybe some mythology movie, but maybe that's where it goes to me. But honestly, I think it. I hope that kids hear that when they read the books, they hear their own voice, just like you do. I mean, that's the really exciting thing is that you read the story, you hear it in your head, and then you want to retell the story on your own. And if you decide that it should sound more like Rob Paulson or Yakko Warner, cool. You know what I mean? That's totally fine. I think that gives a kid a chance to own the story in their own way.
Now I want to go back and reread the chapter and hear Sean Connery explaining to Hera why there's a cow in her palace. That makes me giddy again all over. As we wrap this up, I'm curious because obviously a lot of the tales and mythology, as someone who studied it from, like I said, junior high into college, I took courses, a lot of dark tales. How do you decide which tales, you know what, let's not get too much into that, to kind of walk that line, but also to tell them in a story type of atmosphere that's going to be palatable for children?
Yeah, it can be hard because, Greek mythology can get a little dark. It can get intense. It's got its moments. So, yeah, we're very sensitive to that. And it is a book geared towards kids. It's National Geographic, so it has a lot of educational components. So they won't let us get too dark.
Right.
But we really try to use the humor, the illustrations, like things to try to take the seriousness of certain things out for kids or downplay the intensity. There's certain things we just need to avoid altogether. But if it's like, we try to have fun with it and let them know that this is just pretend. And we have the Oracle of Wi-Fi in the podcast and also in the book that's sort of like a character in the margins that kind of explains things and makes jokes here and there and is a good way to sort of break the fourth wall and relieve some tension for some of the more intense stories.
And again, if you're listening right now, Greeking Out, Heroes and Olympians, the book is available. The podcast is also available. I recommend checking that out as well. If people want to find out more about the two of you, I see, Kenny, you've got a cool shirt on. Can people buy merch? Are there websites you'd send people to check out the book, to check out the merchandise?
Go to nationalgeographickids.com. We had to have a few of these suckers painted by hand.
Oh.
No, actually, we had these handmade. But I'm very proud of the fact that I figured out how to use the internet to make a t-shirt. But yes, we do have the books available wherever you buy your favorite book. I mean, obviously Amazon, etc. And if you go to nationalgeographickids.com, you can get more information about the podcast, season 11, which is coming up. And of course, you can get the podcast wherever you stream your favorite brand of podcasts.
Very cool. So check out the book, check out the podcast. Kenny Curtis, Jillian Hughes, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
James, thank you.
There they go. And again, here's the book right here. If you're watching on the stream, Greeking Out, Heroes and Olympians from National Geographic Kids. The podcast is also available wherever you get your podcast from, so check that out. We're running a little bit tight tonight. We've got some goings on back and forth, and so we are going to go right to my next guest, an entertainment lawyer, Joshua Lastine, calling in from, I assume, the West Coast. Joshua, how are you?
Hey, James. Hey, audience. Thank you for having me. Yeah, West Coast. I'm out in Santa Monica, California.
Perfect. When this was first pitched to me, having you on, I was like, man, this is a side of the business I don't usually talk to. Usually I'm talking to the voice actors or the directors or the musicians. So it was such a fascinating topic to delve into. I was so glad you were able to make the time. When people think about the entertainment industry, obviously they think about the big deals, and especially AI is forefront in people's minds right now. Legally, is there a bunch of changes coming through to how entertainment might be viewed with the landscape as it is with AI?
Entertainment consumption is something that's always been changing. And as technology keeps evolving and changing in and of itself, the way that we consume entertainment is going to continue to evolve. So AI is going to have a profound impact on how entertainment is produced. It's going to drastically reduce the cost of creating animated content. It's going to, speed up the development time when it comes to creating entertainment product. AI does what I like to say, democratizes entertainment in a way that, you or I or Joe Schmo off the street have now access to create artwork and stories and characters that it would take the average person much longer to develop without the tools and resources of AI. So from that sense, there's a lot of things to be excited about with AI. There's always the, dark side of it or downside of it, if you will, the kind of, conveyor belt style of content, sort of taking the soul out of content with AI production. I think that there's always going to be people that are going to want what you would consider traditional media, right? Like there's always going to be people that want to go to the theaters. There's always going to be people that want, television and long form content. AI content is just going to be another type of content to consume, not necessarily going to be a direct one-for-one replacement. But there will be studios that utilize it. There's going to be a lot of startup companies that utilize AI in content production. And then you have, like Beck and Woods, the creators of The Quiet Place. They just came out with a new movie this past weekend, A24's Heretic. And at the end, in the end credits, it specifically says, no AI was used in any of the creation of this content.
Right.
And so I think you're going to have people that sit on both sides of the fence. There are people that are going to love the way that AI fast tracks and streamlines content creation. And I see, it being a great tool towards democratizing, content creation. But on the flip side, for traditional filmmakers, they're never going to completely be replaced. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And it's interesting with the recent strikes, obviously, part of AI has played quite a bit of a part in that. Are these, in your opinion, from a legal standpoint, are these strikes hurting or helping the people who are striking? Because we see the strikes come and they're like, well, this wasn't the greatest deal. We kind of still wanted more. Do you think these strikes are actually helping the people who are striking, or are they doing more harm than good? Do you have an opinion one way or the other on that?
Yeah, I won't necessarily say from a legal perspective, but from a business perspective, it's kind of this perfect storm of things happening. We have like the streaming bubble starting to burst with
right.
Netflix and Amazon and Apple, quickly realizing that you actually have to make money off of entertainment product. You can't just, throw large budget at things and hope that stock investors flock towards your company and that's not a way to make revenue, and streamers are finding it out quickly. People are growing tired of the studio system. AI obviously has an impact on it. So from a business perspective, there was a lot of reasons that made the strikes, the effect of the strikes not so great, right? The reasons for the strike, as altruistic as they are, I think ultimately are going to be something that needs to be solved, at the legislative level. I think that we as people need to figure out how we want to interact and use AI and how that's regulated by law, less so than the guilds themselves. But ultimately, I think it at least started when the strikes were going on, I think it started a national conversation about AI that needs to be had, that needs to be a little bit more nuanced. And so hopefully, it brought awareness to the general public, what AI is capable of doing.
And I know you've worked on some of these shows that I was such a fan of, like Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which our Justice League podcast account, we tweeted out the list of the top 10 animated series ever. That one made the list, and a lot of people had strong feelings both one way and the other about that one. I loved the series.
Really?
And then Dan Versus, which I thought was a very clever show. But as a consumer, I look at these.
Dan Versus. I completely forgot about that one. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's such a great show. I remember I kind of forgot about it too, but when I saw the list of ones you'd worked on, I was like, oh my gosh, that was such a clever show. But as a consumer, I'm watching these and think I either like this one, I don't like this one, I like this aspect about it. And then I think of the surface level legalities, like the voice actors had to sign a certain contract saying this, that, and the other. What are some legalities when you're working on a show like this that people know the property, but they might not realize some of the more difficult legal maneuverings that had to be done behind the scenes to bring it to the screen?
Yeah, I think that the trickiest thing, where it always all begins, is with the underlying rights. You take a property like Marvel or any of the characters associated therewith, you're looking at 40, 50 years of comic books and writers and authors and illustrators who have lent their pen and their creative voice to those characters, and you know, making sure that the rights from initial ideation, from initial inception of character to the final exploitation of whatever it is that you're doing, whether that's a TV show or a film or a comic book or an action figure, you know, that's probably the hardest part. And even for, you know, what I do with like indie filmmakers, we, you know, at the beginning of any entertainment product or project, we sit down and review what is known as the chain of title, and the chain of title or the chain of rights, essentially kind of looking at, okay, where did the idea for this particular thing incept and whose hand has touched on it, and all of the contracts in place, and it, you know, is there a clear delineation of rights ownership from, you know, where the idea began to where it is now. That's, you know, you look at something like, again, like Marvel, the rights are split up across a number of different factions between, you know, actual ownership, which resides mostly with, you know, Marvel Studios, to, you know, licensing deals. Hasbro has the action figure licensing, but then there's other small mom and pop retailers that have licensing rights. When I was at Marvel in law school, it was really interesting because I got to do a lot of the merchandising deals, and, you know, and this was 2012. So kind of at the height of the first Avengers wave. Yeah. And, you know, I was doing licensing deals to put Iron Man on Penn's motor oil bottles. And, you know, just the most random things. All of that stuff you see takes paperwork, it takes contracts, it takes lawyers, it takes business affairs executives to negotiate. It takes front of the house lawyers, back of the house, outside counsel, and a lot of deals have to transpire to get these, you know, little stupid pieces of plastic.
Watch yourself now. You're talking to a guy who loves those little stupid pieces of plastic.
Oh no, you're preaching to the choir, because I have a pretty robust Marvel Legends collection. Nice. My wife would like me to get rid of it, but yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
I think that's fascinating, too, because I noticed that was one of the things. You've got a huge Marvel Legends collector. You're an avid cinephile. You wrote, I think, an economics paper on the box office take from 1940 up to almost 2010, I think. But when you're doing this as a legal thing, I often wonder, does the job enhance your joy of it? Because you're making the legal avenues to make some of these toys and to get some of these product placements, and you like the movies, but does the day job ever diminish your enjoyment of it at any extent?
You know, I rarely will go back and watch something that I worked on. Okay. I'll be 100% honest. But what it really, you know, I get a lot of joy out of watching entertainment products about other entertainment products, so like movies about filmmaking or TV shows about filmmaking, that kind of inside baseball locker room talk, like that to me I find super interesting, just as being like kind of an insider. You know, no, I think that as a entertainment lawyer, being involved in all aspects of it kind of enhances my enjoyment of it. And even too, you know, like as a consumer, like, you know, non-entertainment lawyers love, you know, what we're talking about too, right? Like Deadpool versus Wolverine is just a series of rights jokes and internet pop culture. And, you know, I often say that people have become more sophisticated and knowledgeable and savvy about entertainment law and entertainment rights over the last couple of years because of things like Marvel and DC and rights issues that have occurred between them and stuff. So
you mentioned Deadpool, Wolverine. That's a movie I know that a lot of people fought to get made. I know some of the behind the scenes stuff, even because I know a lot of people were upset that Roy Thomas was given credit in the credits for being a co-creator of Wolverine. Some people say he should have been. Some people say no, he was there. But back and forth, we see all these rights getting batted around, and we see, obviously, with Sony still hanging on to Spider-Man just so they can keep putting out, in my opinion, not great movies like Madam Web and Morbius, just so they can keep the rights to the Spider-Man characters.
About great movies, instant classic.
I'm just curious. Do you think that's something that we might see finally revert back? Is that just kind of one of those things? It's a negotiating tactic on Sony's part to keep it until they get a better deal. What are your insider thoughts on the rights to the Spider-Man franchise?
You know, it's super interesting. In my entertainment law class, I go through the most profitable IP franchise properties of all time. And if you're looking at the list, Spider-Man is, you know, I think worth a certain number of billion of dollars, but it's actually more than the entire rest of the Marvel catalog.
Wow.
So Spider-Man in of itself is worth more than the rest of all of the other characters combined. That is leverage in Sony's eyes. And it's a license to print money with some regard, right? These movies still, you know, I don't know what Venom 3 is going to do, but Venom 1 and 2 did decently enough.
Yeah.
But I think that as long as Sony can keep breaking even on these films, that gives them leverage to hold it over Marvel's head if Disney ever gets the, how do I say, essentially I think at some point Sony's going to want them to buy them out. When that's going to happen, I'm not entirely sure.
So it's just
they
they
do
kind
have
of
that
want it to
new,
happen, but just on their terms.
Yeah. They do have that new Nicolas Cage Spider Noir thing coming out. And they were once upon a time developing a bunch of original TV shows for Amazon in the Spider-Verse. I would say, you know, maybe one of those comes out and sees how we do. The last Into the Spider-Verse movie coming out, see how that does. But Sony's an interesting player in that they're one of the only legacy studios that doesn't have like a direct output to a streaming channel. Like they don't have a Disney Plus or a Max, HBO Max, whatever you want to call it. So they get a little bit more leverage in terms of licensing their properties to other, you know, streamers and VOD providers. We'll see. I definitely think that they want Disney to purchase them out.
I mean, just from what I saw of Madam Web, I think if they really wanted to print money, give us Sydney Sweeney as Julia Carpenter's Spider-Woman in a series, and I think most people would watch that all day.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree with that.
The costume looked good. I mean, that's what we need and she's my favorite Spider-Woman, Julia Carpenter from the West Coast Avengers days. So, you know,
that movie, the setup, or like when I remember hearing, you know, the initial rumblings of what the story was going to be about and stuff, I actually thought that it could have been okay. The execution and the follow through did not stick the landing.
Yeah. Very sad. I mean, they've got, like I said, I enjoyed the first Venom. I was pleasantly surprised by the first Venom movie. Second one, not so much, but I haven't seen the third one yet, so we'll see. When all these Hollywood deals are going through, and this is something you're dealing with all the time. I mean, you've worked on deals for streaming things with Netflix and Amazon. What is it have you seen in the past maybe 5 to 10 years that has surprised you the most? Either a deal got done that you were like, wow, I didn't think that would happen, or a deal that didn't get done, which you thought was a sure thing?
Good question. You know, I wasn't sure if we'd ever get to see Lord of the Rings. I was actually, you know, part of the legal team that was involved in securing the rights deal with Tokens, the state, but I wasn't sure, you know, if that series would ever get off the ground. I think it's more interesting now that we're going to have a split kind of Lord of the Rings Tolkien universe where, Amazon has certain rights to characters and timelines within the Tolkien universe that they can tell stories in and exploit, and Warner Brothers still has rights to other aspects of Tolkien's universe that they're going to create more films and television shows about and exploit, going back to, that kind of rights issues that we were talking about, that sort of, it's very interesting how a copyright can be split up in such a unique or nuanced fashion. The Tolkien estate has granted rights to Amazon for certain aspects, but Warner Brothers has other aspects, and there's video games over here and toys over there. So just watching the Lord of the Rings universe take off in the next 5 years, that will be very interesting. I wasn't sure if that was something that was going to go through 100% or not.
And I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I do want to ask, I think it's, you mentioned the streaming earlier it seems like streaming has not yet become profitable. We see Netflix doing gangbusters because they're just licensing other people's stuff, whereas Disney seems to be struggling in the streaming world, and they haven't attained real profitability yet there. And, we're talking about, Amazon and the HBO Max and everything, looking at struggling, possibly one buying out another, et cetera. Do you think this might be a quick end to streaming, or is it just going to morph into something else?
No, it will continue to morph and evolve. I think that all of the streamers have, the main streamers anyway, have different priorities in that, Apple and Amazon, their streaming platforms are like a added plus to their consumers for the rest of their products, right? For the rest of the Apple and Amazon's businesses, the addition of their streaming is just kind of a sort of add-on. Netflix, to me, is always going to be best when it's streaming other people's content. They themselves have not done a very good job of shepherding a new IP or developing new IP or creating new worlds, but Netflix seems to be the, how do I say, the ubiquitous home that everyone knows to go to look for streaming platforms. So they do well to just kind of stay in that lane. I think what we'll see is a lot more crossover between Disney, Max. Maybe we probably will see the end of Paramount Plus. But probably a lot more, how do I say, friendliness between licensing each other's content and granting sort of added packages. I think that there already is a thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you could now get Disney and Max on the same platform or something like that. There's some sort of way to, that they're starting to play nice with one another so that you can add certain channels and certain aspects to each other's streaming platforms. That's probably what we'll see more likely happen than anything.
A little more détente and cooperation, a little less all-out war between the platforms.
Yeah.
Again, if you're just now tuning in, talking with, did I say your last name right? Joshua Lastine?
Joshua Lastine.
Lastine, perfect. Entertainment lawyer. We're talking all things entertainment. It's been fascinating. I'd love to have you back on again at some point because I've still got a couple questions I didn't get to, but at some point we'd like to reach back out. But if people want to keep up with you, find out more about you, mention classes, tell people where they can find you online.
Yeah, you can just check us out on our website, LastineEntertainmentLaw.com. Check us out on Instagram at LastineLaw. Look for us on YouTube. We have, we'll repost these podcast videos from time to time on social media. So
perfect. I appreciate your time, Joshua Lastine. We'll do it again soon, I hope.
Thank you, James. Thank you, audience. It was a great pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. Be well. There he goes. Fascinating conversation. The legal aspects I never knew before. So we'll have to have him on again at some point. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Be right back on Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
You can make the good guys better. Iron Force, roll 'em! You can make the bad guys badder. Stop 'em! Roll 'em into battle. Real warriors. Quick to change and fight your machine.
vehicles in the Wheel Warriors collection are sold separately. Some parts not for use with some toys. New from Mattel. Watch out! Beast Walker is coming. Can Trailblazer stop him? The ultimate battle coming soon. Enter the world of Voltron, where thrilling adventures let you soar beyond the limits of your imagination. Where the valiant Voltron force merges together in their robonic alliance to challenge the might of King Zarkon's demonic minions and menacing machines. You can join this never-ending battle between the army of evil and the champions of justice, with the fate of planet Aris and the entire universe at stake. Voltron action figures, lions, and vehicles, each sold separately from Panache Place.
Cobra can run, but he can't hide. The G.I. Joe Crusader's hot on his trail. Nobody beats G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe Crusader. Cobra is shaking with fear. Crusader's gonna blast him from the stratosphere. Gotcha!
Launch the Avenger!
The Crusader and Avenger are one top team.
Gear down!
Awesome! Nobody beats G.I. Joe, a real American hero!
Crusader comes with pilot and Avenger.
Yo, Joe!
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers, robots in disguise.
Attack the Autobot Commander! Call in a Decepticon leader!
The Transformers, more than meets the eye.
The Transformers from Hasbro.
Oh, this time.
Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ramsey from Broadway Ford Truck, where we are commercial. Broadway Ford Truck has the largest in-stock commercial selection in the St. Louis area, like dump trucks, box trucks, KUVs, and cargo vans. Broadway mechanics are the best in the business, repairing engines, transmissions, and medium-duty trucks with mobile service as well as free pickup and delivery for all their customers. With the largest commercial Ford parts warehouse, they have you covered with same-day delivery. At Broadway Ford Trucks, we are commercial.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
And today is a little bit of a sadder day. Today marks the 2-year anniversary since we lost Kevin Conroy. It's still kind of one of those things that you don't really believe it. Like I keep thinking, oh, Kevin will be at No, Kevin's unfortunately passed away, but just fantastic talent and truly one of the most kind, thoughtful human beings I'd ever had the privilege to meet. 2 years ago today that we lost the great Kevin Conroy. I'm very grateful that I had the chance to know him and talk to him as much as I did. We want to make sure we tell you, but if you're a fan of Batman, Bugs, comics, and games, they just celebrated their 3-year anniversary with a huge 50% off sale all weekend long, Saturday and Sunday. I was out there, picked up some stuff, and I saw a lot of people out there as well. Hopefully you've got a chance to go out and pick up some books. I know I was texting some of my friends, Ben, Bob, Dave, if you're listening, you guys missed out. There was a Tales of Suspense number 49, that great cover with Angel punching Iron Man on the cover. He had that marked down. That was 75% off. He had a small box of Silver Age stuff that was 75% off as well. So hopefully you made it out there. Hopefully you picked up some stuff. If not, it doesn't have to be a big sale. You can still go out to Bugs and check out the stuff he's got. Boxes and boxes and boxes of back issues. There's everything from dollar boxes to the new comics on the shelf to pricier comics in his case. Some first appearances. I think he has the first Thing versus Hulk fight, Fantastic Four number 25. He's got the first Moon Knight, if I remember correctly, the first appearance of Deathstroke, if you want a Bronze Age book. But a lot of good stuff. Go out and see him. Tell Larry you heard about it on Geek to Me Radio. If you are wanting to save some money while enjoying your hobby, join the Avengers Club. That way you start saving money on your new books, your back issues, your toys, your games, your bags, your boards, whatever it might be. And that way you can enjoy your hobby a little less worry behind it because you're saving money with the Avengers Club. So make sure you ask to sign up for that as well. If you're listening to this and you're from out of town, maybe you're on the West Coast, like our last guest, Joshua Lastine, then you can join him on Facebook.com/GeekToMeRadio. I'm sorry. Bugs Comics and Games, not Geek to Me Radio, that's me. Or go to Instagram.com/Bugs Comics and Games and see the stuff he's got up there. You can see something you like, say, oh, I want that. He'll send you a PayPal invoice. Once it's paid, he ships the item right to your door. So it's like having your local comic book store, except it's online. Bugs Comics and Games, very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. I thought I saw some Butcher Queen comics out there too when I was browsing the things. Speaking of Butcher Queen, we have the writer, the genius behind it all, Jim Ousley, joining us in studio. Hello, thanks for coming in.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's good to be here and always good to see you.
Even on a night when I'm just losing my mind, it's still good to see me. I appreciate that.
That's why it's really nice to see you. It makes it twice as entertaining.
Oh, good. Speaking of entertaining, you saw The Heretic as well. You liked it?
I really liked it. Yeah, anything that deals with religion and horror, all the theological stuff. That's like right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah,
I loved the Atonement Bell, the one you had out previously. It was
thank you.
Set in St. Louis, a little supernatural horror going on. That was a really fun one.
Yeah, thank you.
And the sequel to Butcher Queen. Is coming out in November
20th.
20th.
Yep, in comic shops everywhere.
So if people didn't get the first one, kind of explain the concept of what it is. Maybe someone's listening and they didn't pick up the first series.
Yeah, Butcher Queen is the kind of the code name for Sid Kiowa. She's a fugitive cop, ex-cop turns mercenary. In Volume 1, we see her after she kind of loses her mind a bit and kind of gets her footing and becomes a fighter for people who can't fight for themselves, essentially. Volume 2 is really fun. It's kind of a bit of a lighter story, I think, even though it involves the death of one world trying to invade another. It's still a really fun story. It's basically about this kid who's a scientist, lives in the wilds of Colorado with his parents, his alien mother. And she's very sick, and he discovers an alien life form that's never been seen before. And come to find out, this is tied to a series of global attacks. And it's kind of got a bit of an invasion of the body snatchers kind of influenced storyline. Basically, you want to tell you what the crux of it is?
Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
As long as it's not spoiling anything.
It's not spoiling anything.
All right.
No spoilers. So essentially, there's a alternate dimension of Earth, an Earth 2 kind of a situation.
Might be copyrighted, but go ahead.
Yeah, we don't call it Earth 2, though.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, but they basically have run themselves into the ground because of corruption and pollution and death and everything else. But before they die out, they discovered the technology to transfer their souls across to our dimension, and the idea is to take over the bodies of Earthlings here and wreak havoc on our planet, ultimately. And that's when the government calls in Sid Kiowa, who's still on the run from law enforcement, and, she's a fugitive. And they call her in and her team of misfits to kind of infiltrate this and discover what's going on and see if they can stop it. Will they stop it? Who knows? We can find out.
We're not going to get that spoiler from Jim, apparently. So can they transfer souls into anybody? Does the person have to be dead before they can transfer their soul in?
No.
Or does it just overwrite the soul of the person who's already there?
Usually, they're vulnerable, usually. But, they could be living. They have to be living. They can't be dead. Okay. It has to be a living vessel for them to occupy. Yeah.
All right. Well, there was that TV show Travelers, where if people could they sent themselves back from the future, it had to be the exact moment a person died, and they just all of a sudden when that person died, they quickly inhabited. So I didn't know if it was a situation like that or not.
James, this isn't Travelers.
I'm just saying.
Butcher Queen, Volume 2, Planet of the Dead.
Well, it's Planet of the Dead, so I'm wondering if they're not dead people who they just they're taking them over like zombies.
No, that refers to the alternate dimension of Earth that's dying out.
It's dying.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. And now, was this always the plan? Did you knew you wanted to do more with this character, but was this the story you originally conceptualized as a sequel?
It is, yeah. I mean, the first Butcher Queen series, the Volume 1, Black Star City, that was kind of I put that one together pretty fast. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out, considering how fast it was put together, initially. But Volume 2 was the sequel that I wanted. I wanted to, Volume 1 was very dark, very heavy, which, a lot of people like about that. But Volume 2, I wanted to not rely on inner monologues as much. Just as a writer, I wanted to push myself away from that because I really enjoyed it. It's comfortable, but I wanted to try something different.
Okay.
So this one doesn't really have the inner monologues the first volume did, and it's more character driven. And yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. You know, it actually came out during COVID, the original.
Right, yeah, I remember.
4-issue series. And I always felt like, and Ben felt this way also, we didn't think it got a fair shake in the marketplace because the marketplace was barely there. It was shutting down and everything else. So, and we didn't even know that Red5 was going to be doing a trade collection of it. But when they said they wanted to do one, it was kind of our chance to go back and, you know, spice up some of the art and the ending. Because of the tight deadlines we were on, the ending was, I was never quite happy with it because I liked the ending, but it just felt a bit truncated.
Okay.
So we were able to go back and extend the ending. So this trade paperback is sort of an extended edition of what was on, you know, in stores originally.
Okay.
And so it's a better version to me. It's the definitive, if you will.
The
version of
director's
story.
cut.
If you will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so that trade paperback, that's out now. People want to get the first one in this final draft trade paperback. That's available now for people to get.
Volume 1, Black Star Cities, in its second printing.
Wow.
It just came out. And then Volume 2 is coming out in November.
Okay.
And you'll be able to pick it up at Days of the Dead Chicago when I'm there November, I think the weekend of November 21st.
22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Is it a 3-day con?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be there with all the Butcher Queen and stuff in the Atonement Bell. And yeah.
Was Ben Sawyer joining you on that one as well? Or?
He's not joining me, but he will be joining us at a release party that we're doing for Butcher Queen Volume 2 at the Wizard's Wagon.
Okay. Yeah,
on
we know
December, I can't remember the
December, was it a Saturday?
It's a Saturday.
7th, 14th, or 21st? 7th. Okay.
December 7th.
December 7th. 1941, a day which they can get a day they can get the Butcher Queen Volume 2.
That's right. That's how that date will go down in history,
Right.
I feel.
That's Pearl what? Butcher Queen, let's face it. But that's very exciting that I think that that's gone to the first volume has gone to a second printing.
Yeah.
And that this is now coming out. And now, are there plans for, I'm not trying to rush you, but are there plans for a third story?
I would like to do a third story, but I feel like I do have an idea for a third and final story. But we wrote Volume 2 with the idea of it being the last one if we couldn't do any more.
Okay.
But after the Atonement Bell, I'm actually working on a horror comedy series right now that's also a screenplay.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then I'm working on my own series that I kind of feel like is a proper follow-up to the Atonement Bell. And so, yeah, I've got stuff coming up, but yeah.
Very
we're
cool.
Just focusing on this right now.
I understand. Lot to do, but one project at a time. Yep. If you're listening right now, we're talking with writer Jim Ousley. We're going to take a very brief commercial break. We'll come back and chat a little more with Jim. If you have any questions, you can send it to us on the KTRS text lines at 84126. We're going to take this very brief break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
You can drive it over make-believe craters, then get ready for flight. You can lower the rocket, pretend to fire, and blast it out of sight.
The action's up to you.
The new Legoland Mobile Rocket Transport from the Legoland Collection. Legoland Beta 1 command base sold separately from Lego Systems.
Light bright, turn on the magic of colored lights. Light bright, make a face to glow at night. Smiling friends, shining bright, make a sign to say goodnight.
Just pop in the colored pegs and follow the patterns. It's easy to make your favorite pictures and characters, or you can always create your own light pictures.
Light bright, turn on the magic of shining light.
Light Bright from Milton Bradley.
A secret is revealed when innocent-looking vehicles and ordinary men become an awesome fighting beast. It's the secret of Mask, where illusion is the ultimate weapon.
You're under the microfilm.
Mask vehicles each sold separately with action figures.
Nothing can stop me.
Switchblade attacks.
He's out.
Rhino retaliates. Sato creates a diversion. Rhino reveals its hidden firepower.
Gotcha.
Mask, where illusion is the ultimate weapon.
Me Radio.
Welcome Red 550 KTRS. I'm your host, James Enstall. We'll make sure we tell you about our premier sponsor, without whom we would not be on the air. And the way I'm running the show tonight, you kind of wonder how I am still on the air. The City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know them from the website discoverstcharles.com. Huge 50th anniversary of Christmas traditions this coming season. It starts the day after Thanksgiving, runs all the way through Christmas Eve. They're pulling out all the stops for their big 50th anniversary. They're bringing out some new characters. They're doing a special tribute to this being their 50th year at the Foundry Art Center and in the Convention and Visitors Bureau itself. They're going to be doing all sorts of activities throughout the month that kind of commemorate the 50th anniversary. And they've got some really cool merchandise. They'll be selling 50th anniversary of Christmas traditions ornaments and things like that. You can get those at the Convention and Visitors Bureau during the holidays. And I think the Piccadilly Peddlers, I almost got that one out. So close. Piccadilly Peddlers, who are set up in Berthold Square, will have some of these great things as well. Special posters that have been drawn, special t-shirts and everything like that. It's really going to be fun. So if you've never done Christmas traditions before, this is probably the year you want to come out and check everything out. Start your visit at the website, discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. You can click on all the cool things there are to see and do. They might even have links up on the website for the merchandise I just mentioned. You might want to check that out as well. But whether you're from out of town or locally, this is going to be a great time, something to see. And we always have people, I'm always fascinated when I'm out in the streets, people who come up and, yeah, we're from Dusseldorf, Germany, or yeah, we actually flew in from Australia for this event, which happened during Legends and Lanterns, their Halloween festival. These people came in, they were touring across America from Australia. They were down at the Lewis and Clark Boathouse and noticed there was a festival going on. They stayed for the whole day and just hung out with the characters. They had some really good food. And that's another thing, too. If you're local and haven't been there, there's probably a new restaurant or a new shop that's opened up on Main Street that you may not have checked out lately. So go check it out. If you're an arcade fan, you can check out the Soda Museum, which has a vintage arcade, retro arcade in the basement. That's a lot of fun. If you just want some good barbecue, Salt and Smoke's right there on South Main as well. Always something to see and do, no matter what time of year it is, but it's always nicest at Christmas. So check it out, and check out Krampusnacht every Friday. If you're a little more of a naughty fan, you can check out and have your photo taken with Krampus, the Callie Cansroy, the Mary Lloyd, and all the kooky carnival people who surround the Krampusnacht down at the Katy Depot. The website, once again, discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Chatting for the rest of the hour here with Jim Ousley. If I make sure I get the right mic on. This has not been my night. You've been so patient with me.
I think you're doing great.
Well, I'm struggling, but that's okay as long as people don't notice. It was interesting when you were talking about the redo of the secondary story, taking the monologue out and kind of playing with different. Yeah. I always think of Blade Runner. I love the monologue from the theatrical release of Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. Is that more your favorite too for that reason, or do you like the director's cut? Or
I prefer the director's cut. Okay, in that one.
Get out.
Harrison Ford in the voiceover that he does. It just sounds like he is done with it. I love Harrison Ford, and that's one of my favorite movies, actually. But I really love writing inner monologues for characters and stories. But I just wanted to kind of push myself to do something different. And what if I took that off the table? How would I react? What kind of work would I do? And that's kind of what I did with Butcher Queen Volume 2. Yeah.
So do you think people are going to notice like the shift? I mean, you said it's a lighter tone than the first one anyway. Is that something you kind of another way that people will notice, or just kind of expanding and flexing your creative muscles as a writer?
I think if you read and enjoyed Volume 1, I think you'll read and enjoy Volume 2. I just think it has a more fun pace to it. It moves a little quicker, I try to be a little bit more approach things in a more minimal fashion with the writing, and so I just think it's a more fun experience. If the first one is fun and dark, the second one is more fun and adventurous.
Okay,
yeah, still some horror elements in there because that's my favorite thing is the horror stuff. But yeah, I think it's a good sequel, but it's also, you don't need to read volume 1 to get volume 2.
Okay.
Kind of a thing.
Okay.
They're not, the two books aren't relying on each other.
That's always hard, especially I feel like comic books nowadays. If you want to find out, if you pick up the most recent issue of Detective Comics, you have to go back almost 10 issues to find out why are the police, why don't they like Batman right now? It's just off-putting
as a
sometimes.
As a fan, I kind of feel like that's annoying, and it's really asking a lot of your audience from their attention span, but also their pocketbook. You know? So these are intentionally written, these two series, to be a continuation, but a separate story that you don't need prior knowledge of.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you mentioned the new reprint of the first volume has a bonus story in the back?
Well, the volume 1 has a couple of bonus stories in it. Volume 2 has a really cool bonus story called Butcher Queen Bone Covenant. And that was originally in our Dead Palace book that came out years and years ago. But we put this in here just as a kind of a fun bonus thing. And it's one of my favorite stories. It's super fun.
And this will be one volume. Is this coming out, or is it coming out as 4 floppies, or is it going to be one trade paperback?
No, the floppies came out
for volume 2. Oh, I see that. So that's what.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? You're fired.
That's it. Joey V will take over from here, everyone.
I'm going to host this show now.
Well, obviously it doesn't take much. Obviously, I'm struggling, but I don't know what.
The floppies, remember, came out during COVID and stuff of volume 2 of Planet of the Dead.
That's right. Okay.
And this finally collects those and puts them all under one roof. Yeah.
Okay. And then you said the third one. Not that I'm again rushing you, but do you have like a timeline when we might? Is it going to be 2025 when the third volume starts coming out?
I don't know if there's going to be a third volume.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I would like there to be one, you know, because I love writing these characters. It's super enjoyable for me, but I don't, you know, for me and Ben. I know Ben's working on Five Nights at Freddy's, and it's just a lot to get us together to do a whole other series, because we're both excited about the other stuff we've got going on.
So it's not necessarily contingent on how well volume 2 does in the trade or anything like that. It's just a matter of time wise and whether or not, you know, the stars align.
Right. Pretty much.
Okay. And he will be at Days of the Dead in Chicago.
I feel like you're pressuring me on this volume 3 thing.
I just want you to do your best work, and I want it cranked out and in a timely manner, please. Trains will run on time. So, Days of the Dead, the 22nd through the 24th in Chicago.
Yep.
And you'll be there all 3 days.
All 3 days.
Hanging out with the likes of Michael Cudlitz from Walking Dead and Oded Fair from The Mummy.
And Mia Sorvino.
That's right.
Yeah.
Romy and Michelle.
We might be going bowling with her.
Really?
No, but that'd be fun.
I was all excited about bowling with Romy and Michelle, but that's all right. No, I love The Replacement Killers. Was such a good movie, and she was good in that. But obviously, Romy and Michelle, it's so quotable.
It's such a great movie. Yeah, and Alice Cooper's going to be there, and
that's right.
All kinds of fun people.
Really cool setup. And we want to mention here in just the minute we have left, if you're a fan of Jim Ousley and his work, and who isn't, and you're like, I don't want to go all the way to Chicago, though, fear not, because Jim will be in attendance at the Red5 booth of Two Rivers Comic Con here in St. Charles, coming up May 23rd through the 25th, along with a lot of other talented people. We're going to have Mark Bagley, Roy Thomas will be there, Chuck Patton, and Keith Williams, just to name a few. Stephen Butler. I know I'm forgetting people right off, but we're going to have some voice actors there as well. Friend of the show, Susan Eisenberg, Phil Lamar, and Maria Canals Barrera, just to name a few. Dan Reba will be there, and he's always, if you've not met Dan Reba before, that's worth the price of admission alone. If you get one of his sketches and just kind of listen to him talk about the stuff he did directing Batman the Animated Series and Justice League and so many more, that's worth it. So make sure you put Two Rivers Comic Con on your calendar for May 23rd through the 25th of 2025. Jim Ousley, thanks for coming in tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And thanks to Joshua Lastine as well for his insights in the entertainment law. Thank you to Kenny Curtis and Jillian Hughes for their work on Greeking Out. Make sure you pick up that book as well. And thanks to Joey V. There he is. Hopefully I turn the red.
Look at that. Oh, look at that.
It's not in the way you watch I zombie.
I do care. That's not true. Otherwise, I wouldn't be upset about this stuff. But thank you to all of you who listen. I know I can't see the chats. There's a new restream feature. So I know Joey V said BK and our friends, My Flock, were in the chats. Hello to all of you. If I wasn't very active. Oh, Gremlins, real quick. Text me. We've got ticket giveaway. So text us at 84126. Your favorite Joe Dante movie. The first text I see pop pop up will win 2 tickets to our Gremlins event at Work and Leisure on Saturday the 16th. And that should be covering everything. So we'll watch for the text lines 84126, your favorite Joe Dante movie. Until next week, my friends.
This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Los Angeles. Good night.